It's complicated. You might say it all started in 1948, which you might call Al-Nakba, the catastrophe. You might say it all started in 1948, which you might call Milchemet HaAtzmaut, the War of Independence. You might go back to World War I, blame the British, say they fucked up 1,000 years of decent relations between Jews and Arabs. You might say it was the 1929 massacre of Jews in Hebron. You might say it was the 1994 massacre of Muslims in Hebron, or the 1982 massacre at Sabra and Shatila, or the 2003 massacre at the Tel Aviv bus station.
This is Aaron Davidman, and that was the first 30 seconds of his play and film, Wrestling Jerusalem. So thank you so much for joining us. This is another episode of How to Exhale, a series on love and hate in America and elsewhere, where our hope is to keep the conversation open. And Aaron Davidman is our special guest. He is the writer and actor of Wrestling Jerusalem. So that is one heck of a way to start off this episode. Thank you so much.
It's good to be here.
Great. So I was in 8th grade when the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, and I wrote a really big social studies paper on it. And then when South Africa abolished apartheid, it was 1991, just a few years later, and Nelson Mandela was elected as their president in 1994, the year that I graduated from high school. And in the midst of these really big global events, Rodney King, a black man who was pulled over by the police and then beaten up, one of the first filmed incidents like this, the officers were acquitted and riots broke out in Los Angeles. And these are some of the events that have really shaped me and my outlook on the world, and a lot of these issues remain. So today we're still talking about building walls. We're still talking about the influence of Russia, and we're talking about the dangers of white nationalism and racism. And one of the reasons we're having these conversations at Exhale is because we need to keep things in perspective, and we need to take on other perspectives, and we need to understand the ways, the opportunities and the challenges for strengthening our democracy and our civil society. So we can look at Germany after Hitler and the Holocaust, and we can look at South Africa after apartheid to try to understand how societies move from racism and towards more equality. And we can also look at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and we can look at what hasn't worked. So Aaron Davidman spent about 7 years writing this play called Wrestling Jerusalem, where he embodies 17 different characters. And it's recently been adapted into a film, which I saw just a few weeks ago and was just blown away. In it, these characters are also divided by a wall, and divided by race and ideology, and also by so much history and so much pain. And I'm finding, and what we know at Exhale, is that the more complex that a situation becomes, there's often this desire and this reaction. We're live, so sometimes things happen in the background, like phones.
It might be for me.
It could be for you. Is it your people? In the midst of a complex situation that we have, often a human desire to make it more simple. We want something that is bite-sized or a single story so that we can make sense of something that might initially appear incomprehensible. And so how do we talk about complex conflicts? And stories are a way to do that, because they can be an invitation. And that's what I really experienced in watching your film, was that I felt invited into understanding all of these people living in the conflict. And there was something in particular beautiful that you said, many beautiful things, but this one really stuck out. I can't piece anything together. The fragments don't fit. Maybe the fragments are all that we have. And I thought that was a powerful way to reject this idea of a simple story, and a way to really uphold the humanity and the dignity of all of the individual people that are living in the conflict. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So Wrestling Jerusalem is a film. It's not a lecture. You're not up there sort of giving us, facts and figures. It's not a think piece. It's art. Why is art relevant to this?
Well, we tried to create an experience.
Okay.
So, most of, specifically when we're talking about the Israel-Palestine issue, or actually when we're talking about a lot of really divisive issues in the public space, they seem to be book tours or politicians or, more or less talking heads telling us what they think, and then we can ask questions and talk about what everybody's thinking. Mm-hmm. But as we know, performance and art can give us an experience that's different. And so that's and by experience I mean it's experiential. Like we have a sensory, physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological relationship to the material that has the potential to take us someplace different than if we're just thinking about it. And I think that's what I tried to achieve with the play and with the film, that in a way, me and my creative collaborators are trying to disarm us from our usual thinking and in a way, sort of open our hearts at the end of the day to something different.
Yeah.
To have a different conversation.
Yeah.
We're stuck in a way in many of these issues because we're having the same conversations over and over and over again. A little bit different. But here, what happens if we disarm ourselves a bit? Can we come up with something new?
Yeah, I know that you are working on a campus tour around this, and as you were saying that, it was reminding me about the campus tour that Exhale did a few years ago, and we were also trying to really create an experience where people walking into a room thinking that they're gonna, fight over these facts and figures about abortion, but instead sort of walk out feeling more connected. And somebody said, I had walked in wearing my armor. It turns out I didn't need it.
Boom.
So
That's
boom,
beautiful. Yeah.
that very idea of disarming, doing it in ourselves before it, and in the case of Israel-Palestine, like actual disarmament, hopefully in the future.
Hopefully in the future, yeah, and modeling that. I mean, in a way, the art can model that in a way that's a little different because that's the virtue of what art provides.
So you take on
the creative spirit.
The creative spirit of art.
Yeah.
We have to be creative.
We have to be creative. We have to think creatively. We have to live creatively in order to move in a different direction. Yeah. And
so in the play and in the film, there's 17 different stories, 17 different people, 17 different characters. So
that's right.
One of my first reactions of watching the film was like, thank God it's now a film and you don't have to like literally do this in a play, because it looked, it's the physicality, the emotion of really stepping into and owning where these people are coming from. And so tell me about...
The live performance is a lot, but I should also clarify for people who haven't seen it that, I'm not like wearing different hats or beards or dresses or makeup or any of that kind of stuff. It's just one costume, outfit, clothes, and me, and so it's vocal dialect and body language. And so, and that in a way, it's that's the kind of metaphor of the piece, which is, I'm just one person, I'm Aaron, trying on pretending to be these different people, seeing through their eyes, walking, their steps, and trying on their points of view, and believe, and sort of convincing you that I'm them actually, and I think, and I've learned personally an enormous amount by really trying to embody those perspectives. Right, so that becomes then the invitation. If I can really try on, and these are multi-dimensional people. You can't write off any of these characters. But if I can really try on these different characters and these different points of view, 17, maybe we can try on a few.
2 or
ourselves.
3, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps.
Why is that important? Why is that important in conflict? Especially if we're really believe in a particular position or really believe in a particular outcome? Why should we take on different perspectives?
So there's just some funny little anecdote, which is that I got married in September, and at the wedding, someone said, "Gave us this great piece of advice: you can either be right or you can be married." And in a way, it's relevant here because we're so wedded to our ideas of what being right means, you know. And I feel like we can't be in relationship if all we want to be is right. And so in order to sort of loosen our grasp, our grasp on what we think right means,
Mm-hmm.
we have to allow other perspectives
Mm-hmm.
to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And that means hearing the stories and witnessing the stories and receiving the stories of people that are different from us.
And what does that do to us when we let being right go, maybe for 30 seconds or a whole film?
Well, believe it or not, it allows us to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a way it takes the pressure off us of always having to have all the answers, and we can build collaboration that way. We can receive someone else's wisdom. We can take in someone else's perspective and have empathy for them. And I think when we have empathy for other people, we build community, and we can discover what compromise is,
Mm-hmm.
and we can create something that wasn't there before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're taking this on the road, I hear. To campuses.
We're building.
Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, the film is being released soon having theatrical releases in Los Angeles, Toronto, and New York.
Great.
And we're, as well as cities all over the country, actually, people can do their own screenings if they're interested. But we're also putting together a campus tour. We're going to go on campuses where the issue around Israel-Palestine is really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a facilitated program
Mm-hmm.
that accompanies the film. So it's not just watching the movie, but it's actually having structured conversation that can help people, be more expansive and generous as they try to help solve this issue.
So one of the things I was thinking about, because I know that you have had a variety of facilitated conversations after the play and after the film, and and there's one thing to kind of step into that and watch this film, and there's some safety in being in the theater and trusting a facilitator and having some rules around that, still some risk. And then we go outside the theater and we sort of go outside that facilitated space, and we're in it, we're in the muck.
Mm-hmm.
We're on social media, we're navigating
Mm-hmm.
opinions and conflict and judgment. And I think oftentimes the rules and the norms for social media in particular kind of opposite to this idea of empathy and shared human dignity and respect, that we can be socially rewarded for dehumanizing opponents, for making fun of them, for calling them names. But we get retweeted a lot more if we come up with a really terrible name for the people on the other side, instead of diffusing conflict. And so
drama sells.
Drama sells.
Yeah.
So what's our responsibility outside of the theater and in our everyday lives for how to hold that perspective?
I mean, I can't sort of dictate our responsibility. I can tell you what my own responsibility feels like for myself, which is that I feel I have a responsibility to work on not being reactive.
Okay.
And so we're here at Exhale. I like to begin with an inhale, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big inhale.
Uh-huh.
Then I can exhale and try to drop the nervous system down a notch before I respond.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a very practical physiological trick that I'm sure you guys talk about in your work. And I think the responsibility then becomes on how can I take the conversation deeper or more nuanced or more layered and humanize it, rehumanize it, not dehumanize it. and one of the problems is that takes time. You can't do that in just a handful of characters on Twitter. That's hard to do. I can't just do that necessarily on a Facebook post. But maybe to figure out how. I mean, it took me 7 years writing a 90-minute piece, to really cover it and really get the point across. So, as an artist, my responsibility is actually to try to encourage us to take more time to resist the quick response reactivity, create events and experiences where we can go deeper, where we can build something together. Because I think that's what it takes.
So what can our community do? How can they support you or be involved in creating these experiences and in taking some time?
Yeah, because of course the Israel-Palestine issue is just one story, but the piece is also being embraced in different communities because of its transcendent themes of multiplicity and complexity and multiple perspectives. So people can go on our website, wrestlingjerusalem.com, and get in touch with us about hosting a screening in their community or at their campus, or they can also see the schedule as it emerges soon. It's not up yet, where the film will be screened.
Great. Well, I also want to add that, when we did our campus tour, sharing different abortion stories as an invitation into this conversation, that we found a lot of people who were not necessarily in conflict about abortion, but had other issues that they were struggling with on their campus, that this kind of helped build some muscle and some experience around how to have these difficult conversations. So even if your campus isn't necessarily mired or entrenched on the Israel-Palestine issue, that it's a great way to just kind of practice and to get used to being in conflict.
Totally. I mean, in a way, it's almost like even if it's not your issue, what a great,
could be better.
It might be better. It's less heated for you.
You can
dig in a way.
Other people's conflicts are really easy. I have solutions for all the other people's conflicts. It's the one we're in that's often the most hard.
That's right.
So thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you,
We've learned
Aspen.
a lot, and thanks for the beginning 30 seconds. That's a great way to kick off the conversation. We'll be back next week. Our guest will be Nisha Anand. She's from Love Army, and we're going to talk about loving our opponents. So finally, the last piece I want to share with you, we have a small gift for Aaron here. It's our new cup with our logo on it that one of our team members actually made. So this is handmade, and that one's for you to keep.
Thank you
so much. We'll see you next time.